Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. This time we are at the Indianapolis road course, not the oval, but here for the second round of the IndyCar iRacing series. Obviously would have been the first race in the month of May, but not happening this time around. But yeah, let's get into it. A slightly older version of the road course than what's currently obviously in real life, but I'll be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of this configuration, and it's a fairly rhythm-based track, and it's not one that you can really push at, and it's one where you kind of got to find a rhythm and stick to it. So again, using the PDS setup, and unfortunately on this occasion, a little bit slower than my teammate Henry. He did a 1:11.79, and I believe I did a 1:11.99, so about 2/10 slower, and not the longest track, so yeah, I'm not too happy about that, but we'll get into it. Start by showing you guys the lap, and we'll talk about some of the details a little bit more after that. Yeah, so there it is, guys. 1:11.991 actually. So just breaking into that 12-second barrier, but breaking under the 12-second barrier rather, but quite happy. It's not the friendliest course in my opinion. So let's go ahead and start taking a look at it. All right, so we got a few different camera angles to work with here today, guys. So we're going to mainly use, I think, the cockpit cam here because it's a lot of the details are kind of more important to view from the cockpit view just because it's not easy to find references in a lot of places. So let's go ahead and get started, though. Obviously, driving the wrong way down this main straight. Obviously, in the oval configuration, you'd be going the other way around. But as we come towards the braking zone here, we'll slow it down just a little bit. You're going to look to that 2 marker on the left-hand side. And then it's a pretty heavy brake application. So let me just scroll back so you can maybe take a look at that. So just as you come to that 2 board, just after the 2 board, and basically all the way down to 100% braking for a second. But then you trail off because you want to get the car turned in, and you'll notice that the curb has this sort of unusual shape to it. If we switch back to the cockpit view for a sec, you'll see that it's not really a proper kind of a hairpin. So it means that you kind of have to take the corner a bit differently than how you would think. And because you now have a left-hand hairpin coming up as turn 2, what you want to do is you want to take as much of that inside curbing as you can without cutting too much, unsettling the car, and potentially getting a slowdown as well. But as much of the curb as you can so you stick on the right-hand side of the track here. So we'll keep going in slow motion. I kind of miss it a little bit. You can see I did clip it. Switch to this one. So if we just go back a tiny bit, you can see I'm not really using too much here. And so this is not as quick as you could probably be. But it's all about setting up this next corner. And so no braking here. It's all about rolling the car in, just maintaining the momentum. And that's the case in a few different corners here. So it's not just in this one corner. But you'll notice quite tight on this corner. And we're just trying to kiss the inside curve. You don't want to mount it. If you get up on the curb, you will definitely unsettle the car a little too much. And just trying to get on the power as gradually as you can. You can see I actually got on the power. We just go back. So I got on the power fairly early. I had 2 stabs at it. So I had an initial stab and then a better one, after which point the car was turned more. And then you just run the car all the way down, out of turn 2, down towards turn 3. And now turn 3 is very tricky in my opinion because you kind of have to judge your braking point on the side before you get there, because it's kind of a right kink entry into the braking zone. And so you'll see on the right-hand side, just above that right front tire, there's the curbing on the right side of the track. That's your braking reference. And so that's actually where you're going to judge where you brake. So as you come down in towards, I think this would be turn 3 and 4, you'll see as I came past that curbing, that's basically when I got onto the brakes. And what I'm trying to do here is, again, just roll the car. What I tried to do on a few occasions is charge the corner a little bit more and set up a wider kind of exit. But what I found was this kind of tighter, it's not too tight, but it's a bit tighter than you might anticipate usually taking here. Especially, I don't know if you can really tell, but you can see that we're going, again, kind of around a double right-hand kink again. But trying to set it up so that you can attack the power pretty early and aggressively again. Because after that right-hander, the second part of the kink, it really opens up. And so you can maximize the width of the track. You can see all the track usage there, all the way up to the grass. And then back down towards here. Now, I do want to just scroll back for a second, because this corner is actually a bit tricky. And I found that even when you run all the way to the left-hand side like I did in this occasion, if we play it at full speed, you'll notice that now what happened as we come through that right kink to what's going to be a left-hand hairpin next, I'm quite far on the left-hand side of the track. So switching back to far chase, this is not the ideal position to be coming into a left-hand hairpin, right? So what I try to do is I'm trying to set the car up now. And so that you can see I'm on the brakes now, but I'm not braking in the direction of the corner, right? So this took me a while to kind of figure out these 2 corners here, these 2 hairpins. So you can see I'm not pointed into the corner yet, and that's not ideal, but I make it work. So we'll roll in. And I very quickly trail off the brake there, and that's because I'm trying to get the car back in towards the left-hand turn. So one thing you can do maybe is you'll notice I come down into second quite aggressively and early here. Sorry, into first. Now, if you're a bit better than I am, maybe you can roll more of the corner in second and then shift down to first late to just get some traction off. But I found that I needed to use the engine braking to slow the car just that little bit more. Go back just a little bit again. Now, again, we're sticking tight to the left-hand side of the track here, but this is a pretty weird section because you've got a right-hand hairpin coming up, and you're trying to just not lose too much time here. So I'll play it in slow motion. You can see I'm being fairly cautious on the throttle. You're not going to get above maybe 60-70% throttle here. But what you're trying to do is you're trying to stick on the left-hand side of the track here, because what you want to try and do ideally is a very slight tap or kind of drag on the brake going into the right-hander, but very early let off the brake so you're not trailing the brake and scrubbing more speed going through the corner. And then you can get on the power quite aggressively on the exit here. So this is another long right-hander, and you can kind of attack the exit of the corner and run a bit wide more than you can at some other places on the track. So we'll switch back to the cockpit view here. And you can see there's that little drag of the brake that I'm talking about. If you just look in that bottom right-hand corner, you could see maybe up to 30-40% for just a little bit, trailing off pretty aggressively, pretty early in the corner. And then trying to get on power pretty early and aggressively here. So you can see how I try to spike on the throttle almost. It was pretty aggressive, hard down. And then the second time, you can see I come all the way out to the edge of the track here. Now, if you go too far, you will get a slowdown. So just keep keep that in mind, but that's pretty safe and conservative what I did there. So you can get away with that for sure. Now we come down to, I hate those 2 hairpins before, but I hate these 3 corners that are about to come up now. So you're going to have a almost 90-degree right that then leads into a 90-degree left into a 90-degree right into a 90-degree left. So it's not the most fun sequence of corners, and it's very important not to try and drive this one too hard. So again, I'll try and show you some braking references. So the first one is, you'll notice we have this access road on the right-hand side. Just as we come to the edge of the access road, you'll see this fencing. And right around there is where I like to brake. And it's pretty hard on the brake again, but once again, we're trying not to scrub off too much speed. Okay, no, I should say this differently. I want to scrub off as much speed as possible early in the corner so that I can roll the car a little bit more freely through the rest of the corner. So you can see I got hard on the throttle, hard on the brake, and then pretty aggressively off again, and then trailing it off slowly. But by the time I get to about the apex of this corner, I don't think I have much brake at all, if any. Yep, so right now I'm just rolling the car a little bit of, you saw one little hint of brake application just to try and keep the car tucked in a little bit more. But because you have a left into a right into a left, it's all about setting up each of the next, each corner that's next in the series, right? So here we're on the far left-hand side of the track trying to set up the next 90-degree right. And that's because the 90-degree left that follows it is potentially one of the most important corners on the track. So we'll go slow again, but I was pretty aggressive on the throttle there. You don't actually need to be as aggressive then. You can probably roll the car a little bit more. You see I have to be quite aggressive on the braking there. And if you aren't so, you can see me trailing the brake a little bit more. But the important thing I'm doing here is I'm trying to ride the curb on this right-hand side. If we switch back to this far chase view, you can see we're coming up to that left-hand kink. And I'm not ideal, I'm not in the ideal situation. If I quickly just bring up the mouse here, you can see that I'm pointed in this direction, which kind of leads right around where the inside of the corner is. So ideally, I'd maybe have the car pointed more this way so that I can set up the next left-hander. But if we keep going slowly, what I'm trying to do ideally is cut that corner as much as possible. And what I did there is perfectly fine, and that is not an off-track. So if we go back, we'll look at this corner sequence in the cockpit cam, because that might be a little bit different of a perspective to look at it from, because obviously when you're in the car you have a much different sense of how far you're whoopsie, that's not what I meant to do, but you have a much different sense of how much of the track you're actually using, right? So we'll go back just a little bit more. Yeah, so back here, so all the way on the left hand side here, we'll play it back slowly. And then me getting to full throttle here is just me trying to be too greedy and trying to get back too much time that I was losing. But this is good. I'm not too far on the right. Now, you do need to be careful. If you put too much on the curbing, we'll switch back just for a second here. I'm right on the edge there of being on the grass. And if you get on the grass, that's going to hook you and, send you spinning right or left, spearing right or left, if we're being a bit more descriptive. So you want to try and avoid that. If we keep going slowly, you'll see I'm trying to stick the car on the right-hand side here and a little bit of braking action at the end. But it's important that you get a good drive off the corner, because what you need to do again is you have another 90-degree right-hander coming, a little bit further this time, and so you're trying to set it up on the left-hand side. So I was fairly progressive on the throttle there as we came to 100%, but that was all about moving the car all the way to the left-hand side of the track. And you can see here, you can see just about the apex of the next corner. So you can see I'm still leaving a little bit of track width on the table, but that's because you don't want to sacrifice too much speed in the corner before. So for me to have really gotten over more to the left-hand side, I've had to scrub off even more speed in that left-hand kink, left-hand 90-degree. So just one more corner really to go then. And it's kind of a tricky one because you can see it's fairly flat and 90 degrees, so you can cut that inside curbing quite a bit. And there's no real braking reference at this corner, unfortunately. So you kind of got maybe that line on the track if you can make it out, but at speed I doubt you're going to make it out. But what you need to do is just a little bit trailing of the brake. You can see how much I'm cutting it here. This is quite a big cut if we stop right there. Play it back in slow motion so you can see just how much I'm cutting. But you can also see that the angle I'm trying to take here. So we stop it right on there. So I almost have 4 wheels on the inside of the white line. So you can get away with quite a lot there. Switching back to cockpit. Just play it back slowly. And then just getting on the throttle, because now you're down on the throttle. You're going to go through the, what's the oval turn 1, but you're going to go through it in the reverse direction down towards our turn 1. So just run out as wide as you can. Maximum throttle, and then I try to keep a fairly tight line here. Like you'll see, I'm not running all the way up to the wall early, but I come up fairly late. And then what I do is I like to try and cut as much on the apron as possible there. So, and then a short line to the finish. So yeah, just minimizing the amount of distance that you're traveling. And yeah, there you go. That would be an 11.991. So in terms of things that you can do, what I'll do is I'll play this lap in the background while I'm quickly talking. But some things that you can maybe try and consider fixing in the setup that I kind of thought about. If I can learn how to use these camera controls, it would be great. But there's a little bit of instability on entry, specifically on braking, from just trying to get the car turned in. And sometimes you'll get the car down and you'll turn it in and suddenly it over rotates. Or as you're trailing off the brakes, it's just a little bit sensitive. Maybe if you let off a bit too much or you got on the brakes a bit too much. So that's something you could look into trying to work with. I actually think the setup here is really, really good. And I made a mental note to go back and tell Henry that he needs to stop being so nice and give you guys bad setups. But it's a good setup, not my favorite track. So I think the important thing here in a 39-lap race is going to be getting a rhythm that's just over 45 minutes or so with 1 pit stop. So yeah, it will be an interesting race, that's for sure. Lots of draft down from that last turn on the infield all the way down to turn 1. So will be interesting. Race pace, I think, will probably be closer to a 12.3 or 12.4 because this breaking into the 11s for me was a really tough challenge. So yeah, I hope that helps you guys. If you have any questions about the lap that you want me to maybe go into more detail, pop a comment down below. Or if maybe you have some other lap guides that you'd like to see me do, again, just put that in the comments below. But for now, if that's it, just go ahead and give the video a thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. If you're not already following my Twitch channel, go and check that out as well. I'm not doing this video on Twitch, unfortunately, because I'm just testing some higher quality options for these track guides. But yeah, hopefully it was good, and see you next time for, I think, the last race of the season will be at Belle Isle, so Detroit, so that should be a very fun one. But yeah, for now, hope you guys have a good week in the IndyCar iRacing series, and have a good one.